So let's go ahead and move on to our expression for the day. And the reason I chose this expression is because it's kind of an interesting one. Now, I think some of you might remember we've used this expression in other classes in the past, but we have a lot of students who are new to this session. So maybe this is not an expression you know. So let's practice it together. Okay, so everyone say it with me. Mind. Mind. Now, many of you might know the word mind is kind of sometimes referring to like how we think, right? My mind, like what I'm thinking right now. So, but in this case, the expression has a different meaning. So if you notice, it says here to mind doing something. Okay. Now, the meaning of this expression is kind of interesting because the word mind is kind of negative in meaning. All right, now it's not grammatically negative, but it's negative in meaning. So if you notice, the meaning of the expression is it's not okay to do this. So in this case, it bothers someone. So if I say, for example, I mind, like for example, some of you said you don't like rainy days. You might say, I mind rainy days. Like for example, I don't like them. Yeah, they bother me. I mind rainy days. So in this case, that's the idea. We can use it, but surprisingly, the meaning is kind of negative. It's kind of similar to something like I hate, right? Now, if you notice, maybe you've seen a situation like this before. Look at my cartoon on the screen. Does everybody see my cartoon? So notice one guy, he's saying, do you mind if I smoke? Right. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't like smoking, right? I don't like to smell smoke or that kind of thing. So if you notice, look what the woman next to him, look what she's thinking. She's thinking, yes, I mind, which means, yeah, I don't like it. It would bother me. It would irritate me. So you notice sometimes when people say, do you mind? Right? Do you mind? Do you mind? Now sometimes we might say it because someone is making noise. So you might say to somebody, do you mind, talking quieter? Right? Do you mind not speaking so loud? Yeah, you're asking them would it bother you. So again, if you notice, one meaning of the word mind is to bother or to irritate, which is kind of similar to the idea of I don't like it or I hate it. Okay. Now, what's interesting is we often use mind in as a question, like asking for permission. Do you mind? But what's interesting is most people use the word mind in a grammatically negative way. So in this case, let's take a look at this cartoon. This is a funny little cartoon called Pickles. So I don't know if you've seen this cartoon before, but the idea is with the cartoon, uh, you'll notice the person is using it in a different way. So I'd like to ask some people to help me with this example. Okay, so for example, let's take a look at each one. Okay, let's see. Fatiha, do you have a question? You'll need to turn your microphone on.
I have a question. When the guy asked her if she mind if he smoke, and she said, yes, I mind. That means you don't have to smoke when I am here, right?
So this is interesting here, Fatiha, because one of the problems, let me bring it back up on the screen for a moment. Yeah, one of the problems is most English speakers kind of misunderstand the meaning of the expression. So I've talked about this in other classes, so we'll talk about it here now. I was going to talk about it in just a moment. But what's funny here is when someone says, yes, I mind, it means I don't like it. Don't do it. It bothers me. Now, what's interesting though is that most English speakers don't think about that. So for example, if the person says, do you mind if I smoke? They might respond, Fatiha, they might respond in a negative way. They might say, please don't. Yeah, please don't smoke. So their response might be using it a different way. Now, sometimes English speakers don't really think about the meaning of the word mind. So for example, if I say to you, Fatiha, do you mind if I take this phone call? Someone's calling me right now. Do you mind if I take this call? Now, what you'll notice is most Americans don't really know or think about the word mind. So they might say, well, sure.
It's okay. You can do.
Yeah, so if you notice, most English speakers confuse the meaning of the word mind. So if you notice here, the woman in this cartoon, she's actually using it correctly. She's actually using it in the grammatically correct way. But something you're going to learn here today is that most English speakers don't always speak in a grammatically correct way. So if I said to somebody, yes, I mind, if you notice, look at my face. Yes, I mind. See how serious I look here, right? See, Elena, is that your serious face? I don't know. Okay, that's your serious face. Okay. But the idea is when you see somebody look like this, you know, they probably don't like it. So that's where it's a little confusing, Fatia. Somebody says yes, you might be confused. Well, is it okay? Can I smoke or not? So in some cases, Fatiha, English speakers might respond with a negative expression if they don't want you to do it. Do you mind if I smoke? Yeah, please don't. See, now it's clear. But if someone says yes, you might be confused, like, yes, well, yes, it's okay, or yes, it's not okay. So English speakers often confuse those things, Fatiha. So that's a good question. So does that help? Okay, yeah, and by the way, we were going to use this in our next lesson to talk a little bit more about how to use WebEx. So Fatiha, for example, had her hand raised. I don't always look at the cameras, so what I will say is that you can raise your hand if you're in the participants box and you can click on your name. You can actually raise your hand if you have a question. So I apologize if I don't see you on the camera, because sometimes I don't look at the camera. But we'll practice that. We'll practice that in the next class. Okay, well, anyway, let's go back to my Pickles cartoon for just a moment. And what I'd like to do is ask some of you to help me here. So in this cartoon, just to explain, Pickles is a cartoon with an older couple, a husband and a wife. Okay, as you can see, they're a little bit older here. But what I'd like to do is ask you to help me. Okay, so for example, Elaine, can you read this first one here where she's in the very first picture? Can you read that for us? You can turn on your microphone if you need to.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I don't mind washing laundry.
Okay, so there she is. I don't mind washing laundry. Okay. Elena, do you want to read the next one? Can you turn on your microphone and read this next one? Okay, I can. Your volume is a little low. Can you turn your volume up a little bit? I can kind of hear you a little bit. Well, I can't really hear you too much. All right, maybe Elena, maybe after class we'll help you with the volume of your microphone. It's a little hard to hear. Okay, so we'll try it again later. All right, Saba, how about you try the second one there?
Okay. I don't mind drying laundry.
Okay, so maybe you guys agree, right? Let's see, Maria, how about the number 3 here?
I don't mind folding laundry.
Okay, good, good. All right, Fatiha, do you want to try number 4 here? Turn your microphone on, Fatiha. That's okay.
But I hate putting away laundry.
Yeah, okay. Now, everybody, do you feel the same way here? Do you feel the same way? You don't mind washing laundry? I don't know. I hate washing laundry. But notice she says, I don't mind these things. So if you notice, she's using it don't mind, which means it's okay. I don't love it. I don't like it, but it's okay. I don't mind washing. I don't mind drying. I don't mind folding. But notice she says, I hate putting away laundry. Now, let's look at the next one here. So what does the husband say? So let's see, Lilia, would you want to read what the husband says?
Yes. Relax. That's my job.
Yeah, so what does he do in the last picture? Whoosh.
He's throwing the
Yeah, he just throws it in the closet. Okay, so yeah, so it's easy. Of course, she's working hard. He says, hey, I'll do it, right? Okay, well, I wanted to show you the cartoon because notice when we use the expression, we often use it with a grammatically negative form. I don't mind. I don't mind. So what I wanted to show us here this morning is that oftentimes we use these expressions in a grammatically negative way, but the meaning is actually a little bit different. So that's what I wanted to do here for our chat question of the day. And again, you can use the microphone, you can use the chat box if you like. So here's our chat question of the day. So I have two parts. Here's part one. What are some activities around your house or apartment that you don't mind doing? Now remember, don't mind means it's okay. I don't love them, but I'll do them. Okay, so everybody, if you want, you can use the chat box or the microphone. All right, well, everybody, looks like most people have responded, so that's good. All right, now let's take the opposite. Now remember, when we use the word mind, I do want to show you something interesting here. Sometimes people use the word do, like I do mind, especially if it's something they really don't like. So for example, if you say, I mind cleaning the house, okay, but some people might use it in a very strong way. So they might say, I do mind cleaning the house. So let's talk about now, what are some things just in general that bother you, that you do mind? So I mentioned, for example, I do mind people smoking in public places. Okay, so again, if you want to use microphone or the chat box, tell me something that you do mind. And again, it doesn't have to be in the house or apartment. It could be anything in public. Now, if you notice, guys, the reason I chose this expression, don't mind and do mind, is because they are expressions that people often confuse when we use them. Oh, I see, Fatih, the grocery store. Okay. But the idea is even English speakers can often confuse these words. But I really wanted to emphasize something interesting, and that is that the word mind has a negative meaning, but it is not a grammatically negative word. So for example, don't mind is what we would say is grammatically negative. It's grammatically negative because I use the word not. But what's interesting, so Fatiha, this is what you asked me about a few minutes ago. The problem is it's grammatically negative, but the meaning is actually kind of positive. And that's why English speakers often get this expression confused. So in this case, don't mind is a grammatically negative sentence, but the meaning of the sentence is not negative. So that can be kind of confusing, even for English speakers, which we're going to talk about just now. So, okay, well, guys, thank you so much for sharing your answers there in the chat box. So the idea is, as you will see, what we're going to be talking about next can be even a little confusing for English speakers. But
Can asking you something?
please, go ahead.
Yeah, I know mind meaning what I thinking. We can say I mind in my brain. You understand to me?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know why it's meaning negative, but because I was thinking it's meaning when I thinking or something in my brain. Just
Well, here's something interesting, Miriam. And in fact, I'll tell you what, I'll take a moment here. We'll leave my presentation. And this is a good opportunity for a lot of students in the class to understand something. And that is, you know, many words have more than one meaning in English. So let me share this with you real quickly, Miriam. So that's a very good question. And let me use this dictionary. Okay, so let me share this on the screen. So Miriam asked a very good question, and I think, Miriam, often in my experience, this is often the first time that students have to think about this. I'm sure many of you probably don't think a lot about this in your own language. So this is for many students, especially at this level, as we kind of call the intermediate level, you're beginning to see that words often have two meanings, three meanings, and so on. So this is an opportunity for us to think about that word mind. So I'm going to put it here in the dictionary. Now, so Miriam, what I want you to notice is in the dictionary, the word mind has many different meanings. So for example, the first meaning is, like you said, what we think, our mind, our brain, our head, right? So for example, some of you might say, I have something in my mind, right? Do you have something in your mind right now, everybody? Are you thinking something right now? Maybe lunch? Maybe lunch is on your mind right now? Yeah, lunch is on my mind right now. Okay, so that tells you. That's the problem with waking up early. When you wake up early, you get hungry early. So right now I've got food on my mind. But what I want to show you, so Saba says me too, right? But what I want to show you here, so Miriam, this is something for everybody to think about. I'm going to keep kind of going down. Now be careful, guys, don't get sick. I'm going to move the screen up and down, okay? But what I show you here is there are many different meanings to the word mind, right? The way we think. So a lot of this is thinking about thinking. But as I keep going down, okay, so I keep going, notice there are lots of different ways to use the word mind. So you can see, just by looking in the dictionary, we can see that we use the word mind in many different ways. Okay, now, Miriam, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, so Miriam, can you do me a favor? All right, so Miriam, turn on your microphone for me, can you?
I
Okay.
opened microphone. What?
Okay, now, Miriam, can you read number 2 here on the screen? Can you read that for us?
Yeah, minding verb, minds, meaning, not used in the progressive tenses.
Okay, so what is it? What does the meaning there say?
To be bothered by something.
Yeah, so Miriam, what you're learning here is that many words in English have multiple meanings, have more than one meaning. One meaning of the word mind, again, is thinking about your brain, right? Thinking about how you think. But here, the second sort of definition. So everybody see that number 2 next to the word mind? See that little number 2 next to it? That means that the word mind can be used in different ways. It can be used as a noun, like my brain,
Yeah,
the way I think.
meaning this in verb,
Exactly. Yeah.
different in noun when use
So
in the sentences.
yeah, and if you notice here, Miriam, now you notice that when we use it as a verb, we actually use it in a negative meaning. Dislike, bothered. So I find for many students, especially at this level, this is their first time when they see, oh my goodness, English has many, many meanings, many, many definitions. And when I was learning Spanish, back in 19 blah blah blah, a long time ago, that's when I learned, oh my goodness, English has many different meanings. So, for example, this mind, the word mind, when I tried to translate it into Spanish, I made the same mistake. I thought both words were the same word in Spanish because it was the same word in English. And you know what? Not the same. Not the same meaning. So everybody, this is probably, one of the first times you've had to think about your own language. I had to think about English when I was learning Spanish. So I don't know about you guys. Maybe you're thinking more about your language too. Okay. Well, Miriam, does that help explain it for you? Well, I hope so. Okay. All right. Well, let me return
Mister,
now. Yes,
Mister,
question.
yes. I can tell you that I heard mind, especially when I am in sometimes in what I am in a cafe or restaurant. Someone told me, "Do you mind if I
Right.
take this chair? Do you
Hmm.
mind if I close this window? Is it
Hmm.
correct?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And again, don't be surprised though, Saba. People might respond by saying, sure. And you might be
Mm-hmm.
confused. You might say, wait a minute, does that mean yes or no? But remember, most Americans, everybody, this is true. Most Americans don't pay attention to the
Yeah, me too.
meaning. Yeah, they'll just
But
say, sure, go ahead. Yeah, please do it. They won't
mhm.
think about it. Yeah, so but you're right. Do you mind if I close the window? Do you mind if I open the door? Okay. Yeah, these are all very good questions. But
Yeah, it
notice,
happened to me. I was against to take a chair, but told yes. it was
right, right.
it was it was it was that it doesn't mean why I want to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of the problem too, is that
Never mind.
yeah,
What I
never
mean,
mind. Yeah, yeah.
never mind.
Yeah, like in this case, and so in this case, Shekna, it means don't pay attention. Yeah, don't think about it. Never mind. Yeah,
Never mind. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so again, the word mind has lots of different meanings, but as you can see, it's confusing for English speakers too. Okay, guys, let me go ahead and jump into the next part of our presentation because we've had so many good questions that I'm running out of time. So let's go ahead and jump into my next part of the presentation. So again, last week we talked a little bit about negative expressions. So if you remember, our discussion was about either and neither. All right, you remember those? Neither, nor, either, or. So we'll come back to that in just a moment. But what I'd like to do is talk a little bit more about negative expressions in English. Okay? Now, one thing I mentioned last week was that English does not like to use double negatives. Now, this is different from many of your languages. Okay? Again, I'll use Spanish as an example. When I want to say something in Spanish and I want to make the sentence negative, in Spanish, I will make many words negative. Okay, now do you do the same thing in your language? When you're speaking in your language, do you use 2 negative expressions or 3 negative expressions in the same sentence? Yeah, Elena says yeah, okay. Yeah, it's pretty common. In fact, English is actually kind of one of the few languages where we don't. So that makes English very difficult. Yeah, so for example, Portuguese, maybe French. Elaine, what about in your language? Do you use many negative words in the same sentence to make it negative?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you can see, guys, your language is probably going to be different from English, but I'm going to show you something interesting here, okay? But let's talk a little bit more about this negative expression. So, for example, in Arabic, okay? So, for example, look at my sentence on the screen. Now, this is not true for me. I love mustard, okay? But maybe you don't. But notice the person says, I don't like no mustard on my sandwich, okay? Now, in this sentence, as you can see, this sentence has a double negative. Which means there are 2 negative expressions in the sentence. Now, in English, grammatically, so for speaking grammatically, a double negative actually is stating a different meaning, which in this case is kind of the opposite from what the person wants to say. So when they say, I don't like no mustard, the problem is they are making a grammatical mistake. Okay, so let's watch. So if we're going to make the sentence negative, so if the person wants the sentence to be negative, then we have 2 choices that we can do. But first, everybody, I want you to help me. Where are the negative words in this sentence? Who can tell me what the first negative word is? What's the first negative word?
I
Don't.
don't like.
Like,
Yeah, don't. Yeah,
I
so
don't
in this
like.
case,
I don't.
yeah, so in this case, we would say specifically not, right? Not would be the negative word, but you're correct. Don't is part of it. Okay, where's the second negative word?
no.
No master.
Yeah, no, right? So we've got 2 negatives, I don't and no. Okay, very good.
Mhm.
Now, here's the problem. How are we going to make the sentence grammatically correct? Well, in this case, we need to remove one of the negative words. Now, watch what happens. Watch what happens. Everybody take a look and see what happens when we change the sentence a little bit. So, for example, if we try to take out don't, let's take away the word don't for just a moment. Now the sentence would be grammatically correct. I like no mustard on my sandwich. Now, of course, that sounds a little strange. It might sound weird to you because you notice most Americans don't say it like this. But this sentence does have a kind of particular meaning. If I say I like no mustard, you're telling the person none, 0, not even a little bit. Don't touch mustard in my sandwich. Because in this case, you're telling the person no mustard, 0. So in this case, you're using it in a kind of a strong way. I like no mustard, right? Okay. Now maybe you like mustard. I love mustard. But in this case, maybe the person is saying I like no mustard. So in this case, now the sentence would be correct. Okay, now we could change it another way. Of course, we could take out the word no. And then we could say, I don't like mustard on my sandwich. Now, again, meaning's kind of similar, but this is more common, right? Most English speakers use don't, right? Have you heard that more? Most people say I don't like something, right? They don't say I like no. No, they say I don't like, right? That's more common, I think, in English. Now, of course, sometimes you might see something like this.
Mr. John.
Okay, you see that? Yeah, I don't like any mustard. So in this case, when I use the word any is, again, an expression we use together with a negative expression, not any. Now you might say, well, what's the difference? Well, can somebody tell me what's the difference between I don't like mustard and I don't like any mustard? What would be the difference between those two sentences? Does anybody know?
I think in Arabic we said the true and who is the more true.
So stronger, like this is a
Yeah,
stronger
the strong
sentence.
and
Aha.
who is more strong. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so that's kind of
Um,
the same way in English. Yeah.
I will say when we say I don't like any mustard on my sandwich, that's definitively I hate the mustard.
Yeah, yeah.
But if I say I like no mustard in my sandwich, that's mean just now I don't want it in my sandwich.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe there could be a difference between those two. I think both of them are both kind of strong. In fact, that's what I'm going to say here on the screen. So if you take a look on the screen, it's kind of like saying I like no mustard. Yeah. Yeah, so you're right, Lilia. Maybe at the moment you might say I like no mustard on my sandwich. Maybe this time, maybe next time it might be different. Yeah, so the other one might be stronger, right? Now, Sergey says he doesn't want anything on his sandwich, right? Sorry, Sergey. I like mustard though. But in this case, Lily, I think that's a good distinction. So if I say I don't like it and I like no mustard, there could be even a difference in meaning there. But both of them are pretty strong. Okay? All right. Now, what would happen if I keep the double negative? What would happen if I say I don't like no mustard on my sandwich? Okay, now guys, get ready. Okay, I hope you're not going to be surprised. Okay, so maybe grab your computer or grab your desk and get ready. Okay, you ready? Okay, here's the truth. English speakers do not always follow the rules. Is that surprising to you? English speakers do not always follow the rules. Yeah, the problem here, guys, is that sometimes people say this. Sometimes people say this. However, if we're thinking grammatically, so like what would be the correct meaning? Well, one possible meaning, yes, Saba, it is crazy, right? One possible meaning could be this. When you say I don't like no mustard on my sandwich, it could mean that I like some mustard, though maybe not a lot. You see, remember, if I use two negative expressions in a sentence, the meaning could be that you actually want kind of the opposite. Now, it does not mean I love mustard. So, for example, if somebody says, would you like some mustard? Oh, you don't like mustard. You might say, no, I don't like no mustard. See what I'm saying? Listen again. I don't like no mustard. So notice I'm saying I don't like that idea. I like some mustard, not no mustard,
That
some
mean
mustard.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
That mean I don't like no mustard on my sandwich. That mean I don't like that you didn't put mustard on my sandwich. I want
Um,
mustard on my sandwich.
Well, maybe the person is not putting it on the sandwich and you want them to put some on the
Right.
sandwich. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that might be possible.
True.
But here's the problem. The problem is many English speakers don't think about that. So this is what I wanted to say to everybody. Okay, so again, grab your computer. Okay, grab your desk. Get ready. I'm going to shock you. I'm going to surprise you. Many English speakers don't always follow the rules. Remember, there is often a difference between how people speak English and how people write English. Now, is this true in your language too? Do all of you speak perfectly grammatically? Do you all speak with perfect grammar?
But I think in here,
Yeah.
in here, the English is easy to we speak English is easy to let people understand.
Uh-huh.
But I'm live in London. That's very difficult for me.
Yeah.
They always correct, and correct.
That is because
Very sad, you know.
that is because they think they speak perfect English. Yes, I speak perfect English.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Even the tomato and tomato, they correct me many times.
Tomato, tomato. Yes, neither, either,
Yeah.
either, neither. Okay. Well, guys, I'm sure everybody here speaks perfectly grammatically, right? Perfect grammar all the time. Well, guess what? English speakers don't speak this way all the time. But so what I want to mention here is that just like in your language, okay, Arabic, Russian, Chinese, whatever, English speakers might use double negatives if they really are trying to emphasize that the sentence is negative. So believe it or not, some people don't always follow this rule. So take a look here on the screen, okay? So again, take a look on the screen. For example, For example, somebody might say, I don't got no money. I don't got no money. Now, some English teachers might say, oh, that is terrible English. That is terrible. But, again, somebody might say it. So the question is, what could it possibly mean? Well, for example, it could mean, I don't have anything, not even 1 penny, which is me most of the time, right? Nothing in my pockets. So, for example, yes, grammatically, this is a bad sentence, but people might say it. And believe it or not, they're trying to tell you a negative sentence. Okay, here's one that children might say. Okay, so guys, if you have children, you might know this one. I wasn't doing nothing, right? So if you got kids, right? This is kids love to say that. I wasn't doing nothing. All right, now what could be a possible meaning of this sentence? Again, here are two negatives, but what do you think the kid is trying to say? I wasn't doing nothing. Anybody have an idea? Any guesses? Yeah, it's opposite usually.
I don't do anything.
Yeah, but even more importantly, they might say something like this. They mean
that means he's all day quiet and nice and
That's mean he did no mistake.
well, for example, don't you get worried when your children are very quiet or too quiet? When they
Right.
make no noise, aren't you a little worried
Yes.
about that?
Yes.
Yes, that's a
Yeah.
bad thing, right?
that is
So
a catastrophic stuff.
something really bad. Well, so for example, when a child might say, I wasn't doing nothing, what they mean is I wasn't doing anything bad, right? I'm innocent. I didn't do it. Now, guys,
Or
many,
sometimes he's not responsible for that.
that's right. That's right. It's not me. Yeah, somebody else. Yeah, he did it. Now, guys, both of these examples use double negatives. Okay. Now, I'm here to tell you. Okay. Now, as an English teacher, and some of you already know this, but as an English teacher, I believe it's important to teach students what the grammatically correct way is, and also how people really talk. Now, guess what? Those two things are not always the same. People do not always follow perfect grammar when they speak. So what I'm trying to show you here today, some English teachers might think this is bad English. Okay, so again, notice what I say here on the screen. Remember, English speakers don't always speak grammatically. They don't think about grammar. I don't know that you guys always think about grammar if you're talking to your friend or so on. So what I wanted to show you here this morning, these examples show that we don't always follow the same rules for writing English as we do for speaking English. In speaking English, we might use double negatives, and we mean a negative sentence. But when we write, we need to try to follow the grammar. So in this case, when we're writing, if I want a sentence to be negative, I should use only one negative word, okay? So if you speak a language where you use 2 negatives and 3 negatives, this is where English is different. But I want to show you this last part. Some teachers might think these are examples of bad English, okay? But you will hear people speak like this every day. Guys, you walk on the street, you go to the store, people talk like this all the time, okay? Does everyone understand what I'm saying at this point? We understand that? Okay. Okay, yeah, so again, I'm sure everyone here understands that we don't always speak grammatically, but I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Okay, now guys, let's keep going because our time is just about getting away from us here. So let's kind of review a few negative expressions. Guys, you can practice this right at your computer. So what we're going to do is we're going to say the negative word on the left, and then what I'm going to do is to show what we think of as kind of the opposite meaning. So for example, everyone say the first word there, nothing. Okay. So for example, the opposite word would be?
Everything.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's say the next word, never.
Always.
Now, for example, remember never means never doing something, which means really anything could be the opposite, always, sometimes, you know. But yeah, the exact opposite would be always. But basically never means zero, so anything would be different from never. Okay, let's say the next one, none.
One.
Often.
Most.
One.
Oh, you're close.
Once.
Most.
Most.
Once.
Most.
Yeah, now remember guys, what none means. None means not one. None means not one. So sometimes people say, I know none of the answers. So for example, somebody might say this, I know none of the answers, which means I know not one of the answers. So if you use it in the opposite way with a negative sentence, you would say, I don't know any of the answers. Yeah. Now remember though, guys, we don't use the word any by itself. We don't say, I know any of the answers. That sentence would be incorrect. Okay, so remember, we don't use the word any by itself. We use it with other negative words, but the meaning is different. It's opposite in this case, would be the opposite. So none, you could also say some, or of course, you could also say all. I know all of the answers. That would be the opposite of none in this case. But no would also be the opposite, would be any. Okay, and then finally, what about the opposite of one or nobody?
Once. No. No.
Everybody?
Yeah, you're close. Yeah,
All of them.
anyone. Yeah, anyone or anybody. Yeah.
Anyone.
Now, of course, you could also
Oh.
say everyone. Yeah, so sometimes you'll notice people might use everyone. But again, in general, when we think about these words, we have to think about how to use them. So, for example, on the left side of the screen, if I just want to use these words, these are the negative words in the sentence. If I want to use the words on the right, okay, the words on the right, I would usually have to use them together with a negative word. So that's what we're going to be practicing here in just a moment, okay? Now, to get kind of finished with this first part of the lesson, just kind of real quickly. So last week we talked about either and neither. So this gets a little confusing when it comes to showing agreement and disagreement. So everyone look real quickly here on the screen. So for example, this morning we practiced with me too. Remember that? Me too? Yeah, so we practiced that at the beginning of class. So if I want to agree with someone, it's going to depend on what I'm agreeing with. So for example, here on the left side, okay, now guys, if I want to agree with an affirmative statement, now affirmative means that the sentence is not grammatically negative. So for example, look at my example, okay? So it says, I love walking in the park. Now, what did you guys say this morning? Well, for example, you might have said, me too. Or you could say, I do too. You see the word too, that word too that we're emphasizing there. Okay, let me pull up my pen tool here. Hold on. So that word too, I don't like the color yellow, but there you go. The word too is showing you that I agree with your affirmative statement. So again, love is grammatically affirmative. There's no not in the sentence. Okay? All right. All right, let's go to what if the sentence is negative? For example, I don't want to eat pizza again. Now, guys, what do you think would be the response here? So if I agree with you, would I say me too? Or is there a different response? Any guesses?
It's
It's
the
me,
same.
me neither.
Aha, congratulations. Yeah, remember the sentence is grammatically negative. So in this case, the word that I'm agreeing with, let me use a different color. I don't like the yellow there. Okay. The word I'm agreeing with is the word not. So in this case, since you said I don't like it, if I want to show you, yeah, I don't like it. Yeah, so we don't say me too. We would say me neither. Everyone, you say that. Me neither. Okay. Now remember, either would be the opposite of neither. So if you're going to use either in the sentence, then you would have to use it with a negative expression. I don't either. So you could say me neither, or you could say I don't either. Okay. Now, of course, You could say it a different way. You could say it like this. For example, she wants nothing to do with that crazy guy. Now, in this case, the negative word is the word nothing, right? So there's the negative word there. So how would I show that I agree or that someone agrees with you? Well, again, you could use the word neither, but notice sometimes we might say it like this. Yeah, neither does my brother. Neither does. So in this case, sometimes the word neither might go first, and then they might use the helping word next. Okay? Now, I know this can get very confusing. So if you notice, even English speakers often try to make things a little bit easier. So instead of saying, for example, I don't either, many people just say me neither. Right? Or instead of saying I do too, people just say me too. Right? That's easier, isn't it? Yeah, it's a little bit easier to say. Now, what happens if we disagree? So again, these are situations where we agree with the person. All right, well, let's look at my disagreement examples. So for example, if the sentence is affirmative, but I disagree with you. So for example, guys, do you remember what you said this morning? If you disagreed with me, so I said I love walking in the park. Do you remember what you said at the beginning of class if you disagreed with me? What did you say?
Me too.
No, that's agreeing with me.
Mind working?
No. Look at my example
Oh,
here. What did we say at the beginning of class?
disagree. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you go,
I'm
Jamila.
not. I'm
Yeah,
not.
you're close. Not me.
Not me.
Yeah, there you go. So Jamila got it there. Yeah, so not me. Yeah, that would be disagreeing with you. And why? Well, because the sentence was grammatically positive, but in this case, so love was the grammatically positive part, but in this case, not would be the opposite, right? If I love it, not me, that would be the opposite. Okay? All right, now it gets a little more complicated when we want to disagree with a negative statement. This is where it gets complicated. So for example, if I said I don't want to eat pizza again, well, if I agreed, I said me neither. But how do I disagree with this sentence? How do I disagree with the word not? Well, I would use the opposite. So in this case, I would say, I do.
Do.
Yeah,
I do. Mhm.
I don't want to eat pizza again. I do, which means I want to, which means I disagree with you. Now, that's a little confusing, isn't it? So we have to remember, what was the original sentence? Was the original sentence grammatically affirmative, or was it grammatically negative? And if I agree with you, I'm going to agree with you using the kind of the same words, right? All right, well, again, if I also want to say like she wants nothing to do with that crazy guy, well, again, but my brother does. See that word but? But my brother does. So if you remember in the previous example, let me go back for just a moment to the previous slide. So once again, if I agree with someone, I'm going to agree in the same way. So if the sentence is affirmative, I'm going to use the word too, me too. That is affirmative. If the sentence is negative, and if I agree with you, so for example, if I agree with not, then I'll use the word neither.
Neither.
Yeah, me neither. Right? Or I don't either. Right? Okay. Of course, some people like to be more formal and they might say, neither do I, or neither does my brother. That sounds a little more formal, right? And again, if I want to disagree with the person, well, again, if the original sentence is affirmative, then I would use not. I love it, not me. Or I don't like it. I don't want to do it. I do. Yeah, that's the opposite of the sentence. Now, guys, that's a really confusing idea, and I think that's going to be a challenge for all of us when we're practicing with our activity this afternoon or evening. Okay. Okay. Now, guys, our time is getting away from us. So, what I just want to remind everybody with is you have to be careful. So, you have to listen to the sentence or notice the sentence. And please understand, it's okay to agree or disagree, but you need to do it in a grammatically correct way. So for example, if the person says, I don't like eating sushi. Okay, so my apologies to my Japanese students for just a moment. But in this case, I don't like eating sushi. Now, if the person wants to say that they don't like it either, well, for example, it would be incorrect to say me too. That would be incorrect. Remember, the word to is only if the sentence is affirmative. If the person says, I like eating sushi, then you would say, me too. But remember, the sentence is negative. Okay, so guys, what would be the correct answer to agree with this sentence? If I say I don't like eating sushi, what would be the correct answer to agree with the person?
Me neither.
Congratulations. Yeah. So you could say, neither do I don't either, or you could say simply, me neither. That would be correct. Because again, now you're agreeing with their negative sentence. Now, what if I disagree? What if I disagree? What if I say I like eating sushi? What could I say? What would be the opposite of I don't?
I do.
There you go. I do. I love it. So in this case, do would be the correct answer. Okay. All right. And then real quickly, here are a couple more examples. What if the person says, I hate eating sushi? Now notice the word hate. Hate has a negative meaning, but it's not a negative word grammatically. So guys, if I say I hate eating sushi, it would be incorrect to say neither do I, or I don't either, or me neither. Because remember, hate is a negative word, but it's not grammatically negative. So in this case, you can't use not or neither. So what would be the correct response? If you don't like sushi, if you hate it too, what would you say? No, that would be something else. No, you would say, me too. Like, I love it, right? Or I hate it too. Yeah, I hate it too. Me too. Now, if you disagree, so I think that's what you were saying. If you disagree, you might say, I don't. I don't hate it. I love it. That would be the opposite.
I mean disagree. Sorry, I don't listen very well.
That's okay. Maybe you love sushi. Maybe that's why you don't want to answer. But in this case, that's what I'm trying to show you. So this particular topic can be very confusing. All right, I got one more. She loves dancing. Maybe you guys. Do you guys like dancing? All right. Okay, well, she loves dancing. Now, again, it would be incorrect to say, oh, really, I do. You might say, but Mr. John, that looks the same. That looks the same. I do. Okay, but the problem is you're missing a very important word. What word are we missing if I agree with this person? What should
Me
we
too.
say? To. Yes, that's it. So if you agree, you have to use the word to because the sentence is grammatically affirmative. So in this case, oh, really, I do too, or me too. So in this case, guys, you can't just say I do. I do would be the opposite response. Okay? And then, of course, you couldn't say, you could disagree. You could say, not me, I don't. That would be the opposite. Now, guys, it's very confusing. So it does take a lot of practice, a lot of kind of mental practice. Now, our time is pretty much up here for this morning. So what I would like to do is I had an activity that we were going to do here in class. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that activity together with the other homework activity that I would like for you to do for homework. But let's take a look at a couple of examples, if that's okay. Is that okay with everybody? Just for a couple more minutes? Right? Everybody got something else to do? Yeah, come on, Mr. John. Okay, well, let's take a look. So, for example, we're not going to use the poll feature. I was going to use the poll feature, but let's take a look at a couple of examples just to get you an idea of what you're going to do for homework. So, for example, let's look at number one here. All right. Now, number one says Svetlana doesn't have blank time to finish the project. Now, look at my choices. Which one would be the correct answer to put into the blank? Would I say no, none, any, or anything? So I hear
Any.
so people saying C, any. That is correct. Yeah, because the sentence already has a negative word. The word doesn't. So if I'm going to use another word, I would choose, in this case, anytime. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Let's try the next one together. All right, now this one is thinking about agreeing or disagreeing. Now remember, we have to think about the grammar of the sentence. Think about the grammar. So number 2 says, my brothers and sisters don't want to go to the concert. Now look at my choices. Yeah, my family does too. Yeah, neither does my family. Yeah, my family either. Yeah, not my family. Which one do you think would be the correct response, like the grammatically correct response?
Y-
Yeah, neither does my family.
Yeah, very good. The grammatically correct response would be B. And why? Why is B the correct response?
Negative way.
Well, why would it be the correct response? Well, for example, look at the original sentence. What do we see in the original sentence? Not, right? So let's think of the problems. For letter A, the problem is the word to. To is only if the sentence is affirmative. This sentence is negative, so we can't use to when person says not, okay? In letter C, the problem with either is that either is also considered an affirmative word. If I said my family doesn't either, then that would be correct. So in this case, that one doesn't work. And then finally, D does not make any sense because not is the same as the answer here. And remember, if I'm showing agreement, we use the word neither, not the word not. Okay? Again, it's confusing. I understand. Let's try one more. Can we do one more? Let's try one more. Okay? All right, let's try one more. So here's number 3. Take a look at number 3. I'm not going to read it this time. You look at it. Okay, now I see
Already,
some.
I do.
Okay, I see some people answering. Okay, I heard some D's and some B's.
I do. Already, I do.
Okay. Oh, you're close though.
Oh, really, not me?
Aha, there we go. Yeah, here's the problem. The problem is what the person wants to do is to disagree. If you look carefully, 3 of the choices are negative, but you have to choose which one is the correct negative response. So in this case, let's go through each one real quickly. This will be our kind of final discussion here. So in this case, okay, hold on guys, my mouse is, there we go. All right, hold on, my mouse has gone a little crazy here. There it is. Okay. So real quickly, here's the problem. The problem here is the sentence says, I really want to. Okay. Now, if I agree, I would say, yeah, me too. Two would be the important word. But if you notice, the person wants to disagree. So for example, neither, well, neither doesn't work. We would only use neither if the sentence were negative. And the sentence is not negative. Okay. Let's go to letter C. Well, letter C and letter A are the same answer. Okay. Yeah, so letter C and letter A are the same. I don't either or me neither. That's the same. So if A is incorrect, so is C. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the last 2 choices. Well, for example, if I say I do, there's a word that's missing. What word is missing from letter D?
Two.
To. Remember, guys, if you're going to show agreement using an affirmative sentence, you have to use to. So in this case, D would be correct if I said, I do too, but it doesn't. So I wanted to trick you a little bit, right? So I wanted to trick you a little bit because in this case, the person is actually disagreeing. And the only correct response, again, the only grammatically correct response would be B. I really want to go. Oh, really? Not me. Right. See, now I disagree. Well, guys, I just wanted to do some examples here today to help you, to show you that negative expressions can be very confusing. So what I'd like for you guys to do for homework, okay, we're going to do something a little different. So we're not doing a Burlington exercise this week. We're going to be doing Okay, we're going to be doing some more practice with negative expressions. So when class is finished here today, after the video is ready, I'm going to send you the class video so you can go back and watch it again. I'm sure you want to watch me again, right? You guys want to see me 2 times, 3 times, right? 100 times? Okay. But if you want to go back and review, I think it's a good idea because this can be a very confusing topic. But the idea is I'm going to send you an activity where you're going to be answering questions just like this. So in the activity, you're going to be choosing the correct answer, A, B, C, or D. A couple of examples, you're going to be giving me your own writing. You're going to write a sentence using these particular words. So that exercise probably will take you about 20 or 30 minutes to finish, but I would like for you to try it for homework. So I'm going to send it to you in your email this afternoon.